I am now as well. Yeah, we didn't have T-Pack. I'm trying to think of what
Yeah,
our equivalent was. I
what
think it's the Tennessee
fancy
Theater
hall, the
downtown.
Tennessee Theater?
I think so. I don't remember ever going to anything though, but that's more of a me thing than because even
Yeah.
like during the day field trips, I don't know that I remember a lot of those. I know I took one with my gosh, this is like the whitest thing I think I'm ever gonna say in my life. My middle school French class took a trip to the Biltmore.
Middle
So
school French class.
let's just slam all of those things together. Um, but no, it was really
on
cool. It was a really fun
on your
experience.
Most people might have that on their white man bingo card.
Wow, knocked that one out early. I see you all in the next episode. That's going to be it for me. Let me just go ahead and get
French, middle school French.
went to the Biltmore.
So how much of that French did you actually retain?
Oh,
That's the
zero.
question.
Absolutely. Well, no, not zero. 1%.
Okay.
But I took a semester in college because I had a friend who wanted to, and I was like, it's 10-10. It's going to be the easiest thing, and it was because it was entry. It was 101.
Yeah.
And I was in a Twitch chat the other day, and someone asked, "How are you doing?" in French, and I said, "Okay." And then I said, "Is that right?" Immediately, I immediately walked it back, of like, I think this is the right thing, but I'm not sure.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Never a bad thing to reference that.
Oh my gosh, just it gets you right here. Also on White Man Bingo, that song.
Yeah, for real. They're on a roll this episode.
Yes.
How are you holding up?
Well, currently, both my boss and direct coworker are on vacation this week. So I've had better weeks, but I've had worse weeks.
Yeah.
So ultimately, no complaints. Because you know what good does complaining do? I've tried to have that mindset for a couple of years now, and it has not worked. Still a complainer. This guy.
If it helps you feel better, that's the main thing.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't inherently disagree with that.
Yeah. It's okay to complain as long as it's helping you, and you make sure you're not driving other people away.
Yeah.
That might be your sign that you complain too much.
What is it? Who's it? Ron White. Here's your sign. Is that his bit?
Yeah. Here's your sign. I love no Bill Engvall. That's who does here's your sign.
Okay.
But I like him. He's got some good ones. Like he said he said one evening he was coming back from Nevada from a show, and as the plane was leaving, it hit a deer. And so they had to pull off the runway and make sure that
No.
nothing was damaged. And so he called his wife and said, "Honey, hey, I'm going to be a little late coming home. The plane hit a deer." And then
That is
she goes,
wild.
"Were you in the air?"
Can you imagine? It's around Christmas.
And that's what he said. He goes, "Yep, Santa was making one last round. Here's your sign."
Oh my gosh. That's whew.
I love it. But yeah, so we are going to be reviewing John Wick Chapter 4 today.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
If for those of you who remember, it was either one of the last episodes of 2022 or one of the first episodes of 2023. We did kind of a year in review, year in preview type of deal. And one of the things we talked about was which movies of 2023 are you most excited for? Just have that, like, have your attention. And I haven't listened to that episode recently because it was in January or December. But I want to say that I said this movie is one of the things I was looking forward to most.
I do remember that for sure was one of the movies that I think that might be the one you were most excited about.
I think there's every possibility that that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm very predictable in that sense.
Which, starting off the year with a banger like that, like
it's troubling for the rest of the year, is what I'm going to say, which does give you a little bit of an insight into how we're going to talk about the movie going forward. But yeah, I don't know that we have a whole lot of news to get into this week. It's not that there isn't news; it's that I didn't grab any, and this is kind of my. John's excited about this movie. He takes the reins, and when John takes the reins, those horses, they are gone. So, like, talk
5 miles down the road.
Like, everyone talks about getting their ducks in a row. My ducks are not in the same pond. So
your ducks are chickens.
I saw a video recently. This is a complete rabbit hole, or a tangent. It's not really a rabbit hole. I saw a video. There was a chicken that got like stuck in a car's engine. So this guy's pulling this chicken out, and the chicken's not having a great time, right? It is stuck, and there's a lot of force being used. And then it cuts back to a completely different person, and he goes, "Yeah, it hurts worse when it gets stuck in the zipper." I lost it, dude.
That's awesome.
I lost it.
I love it.
So anyway, back to this movie.
Yeah, the episode is probably going to be a little bit shorter today, just because that's the main thing that we're doing is reviewing this.
Again, I will start with I feel like most of the movies we have reviewed this year. John Wick Chapter 4 is rated R. This time for pervasive, strong violence and some language. What's entertaining to me about
nearly as
that,
much language as you would think,
right? That's exactly what I was getting at, because pervasive, strong violence, start to finish.
I mean, yeah.
But that genuinely is really about it. Because you think of a lot of R-rated movies, especially blockbusters in this kind of day and age, and they kind of run the gamut of all of those things we expect from pay cable, right? So it's like you've got your language, you've got your sex, you've got your violence, you've got your drugs. Like, you should throw them all in there, sprinkle them in there for content. And this movie has its lane, and it stays in it aggressively. So I respect
it. Does,
that.
yeah. It stays very true to the genre that it is, and doesn't try to wiggle around very much, which we'll get more into that later. But I guess we should introduce everybody. Welcome.
Oh yeah, shoot.
To
see what I mean? Why is John in charge?
Welcome back to another episode of They Didn't Ask Us. I am I'm Jay, and the one that you've been hearing the most here has been John.
Hey. And if this is your first episode, welcome. I'm always this chaotic. Jay is normally not.
I try to keep things moving.
Yeah,
I'm the pace setter, I guess you could say.
I think that's a completely fair way to describe the relationship between the two of us.
And but real quick before we get any further, if you want to reach us, I noticed, I'm going to say this because unfortunately the past 2 episodes I haven't laid this out at all. I guess I've just been so excited about what we're reviewing. But if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us several ways. You can email us, they didn't ask us at gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. The podcast has a Twitter page, TDAU_pod. If you want to follow John, You can follow him, jmueller8332. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be down below his screen. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me. The nerd is _in. And you can message us on there. We'll definitely get it that way. That might be the best way to reach us, honestly, because I know John and I are both on Twitter probably more than we should be.
Oh, not probably. Absolutely more than I should be.
So we
I
will
own that.
definitely get it if you message us on there. So just be aware of that. But yes, sorry. Now
now that you've done like actual podcast things, John Wick Chapter 4 movie, we're recording March 29th. It came out March 24th, I believe, was last Friday.
Right. Yep.
So as per usual, I saw it Thursday night because when I get super excited about a movie, I want zero chance of any spoiler ever. And the local theater does do a lot of Thursday night shows because like midnight premieres, I used to love them when I was younger. I am not younger. So I think it was like 6:40 and we were home by 9. I was like, man, Perfect. This is the life.
You got to go to early bird special and then you got to go to your movie and then you were in bed by 10 o'clock.
I mean, Meg was. I don't quite go to bed that early yet, but It's coming. I can tell it's coming. So I saw it super, super early and I have had thoughts I have wanted to say every day since. Because like every day on my Twitter timeline, again, because I'm on Twitter too often, has been somebody talking about this movie. And I'm just like, I want to say things, but I don't know that other people have seen it. And on Twitter, as opposed to how we are on the show, I very much care about, like, I want people to be able to form their own opinions. And I want people to experience things for themselves before we can have that type of conversation. And on the show, obviously, you're already here. So we do operate under the pretense of everyone either has seen it already, whatever we're talking about that episode, or they are completely content with the heavy amount of spoilers because we talk about it as if everyone has already seen it.
Correct.
So from that end, John Wick Chapter 4. Because it came out less than a week ago, there's not a great plot summary yet. I didn't even look at Wikipedia just because the last Wikipedia plot summaries I've consulted have been novellas.
Like 8 paragraphs long.
Yeah, they've been longer than Of Mice and Men. So IMDb has a great 2-sentence one. I'm
very proud of you for that reference.
Concise. Is it right though? John Wick uncovers a path to defeating the High Table, but before he can earn his freedom, Wick must face off against a new enemy with powerful alliances across the globe that forces that turn old friends into foes. Dun, dun, dun.
And then in some cases, old foes into friends. Ish.
Yeah. There's a definite aspect of the enemy of my enemy is my friend in this, I think.
Yes.
So starting off, I know one thing that I remarked on our year-end preview segment was I was terrified for this movie because John Wick, the first one, is amazing. The set Chapter 2 is not as good. Chapter 3 is worse.
Just real quick before we go any further, I would say Chapter 1 is definitely in my top 10 of greatest action movies of all time. Maybe in my top 5. It's up there.
I genuinely think it's in my top 5 because it kind of created the genre of gun fu. Stylistically, it's done so well.
Uh-huh.
I did not come up with that, by the way. I saw that I've seen that on the internet for years referring to John Wick. But it's original, which is something we've bemoaned the lack of for a number of years, and it's done well. Those are two things that are very, very difficult to pull off in this
Yeah.
day and age.
Yeah.
But it's a weird trend among the trilogy where it started the best and got consistently worse over time. So when they announced a fourth movie, I was like, oh, I don't know about this one. I do not feel good. This is going to be a little bit of a hot take, Jay. I think it might be the best one.
Oh, that is a hot take.
It is, at the absolute worst, the second best one.
I will
Far
take
and
that.
away, 1 and 4 are the best. There's
I
not a
would
competition.
take that. Yes, 1 and 4 are the best. 2, I like it because it is so similar to the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It just builds that a little bit more onto the first one.
Right.
The third one is when it starts to get
off the rails a little bit.
It gets a little out there.
Yeah.
It gets a little out there. And then on top of that, you start to I kind of want to save this for my complaints section.
Okay.
My negative.
So
because we tend to do more like the positives and then we go to the negatives. And so I want to save my thoughts for the negative.
Okay. One of the things that I bemoaned and complained about the most with chapter 2 and chapter 3 are just kind of like, as they fleshed out the world, as more details and personal relationships and things started coming around, it became less believable. Like part of what makes John Wick 1 so good is the kind of like mysticism of the unknown of everything, because they tell you just enough that you need to know in that moment. And then it was an incredible success, and they were like, oh no, we have to make sequels because we have to make more money. Spaceballs 2, the quest for more money. And the thing that works so well with this one, to me, is there's so much world building, but it worked. It was that same, they told you everything that you needed to know, you just needed to know so much more. I thought that I did kind of get a little bit tired of the pacing of the movie. Because like we said earlier, with the pervasive strong violence, I cannot stress that enough. Pervasive strong violence. And start to finish. It is genuinely start to finish.
Yeah. The fight sequences. So one thing that made the first one such a unique experience was because it was the first, well, not the first time, but one of the first times, well, it was done well, where the fight sequence was, you saw the whole thing, one shot, not this whole camera jumping around type of thing, going to this shot, then this shot, then this shot, then back to that shot. Then it was just camera focused on what's going on, one continuous shot, and the fight went through so smoothly. And this one, they do the same thing as they've done in all the other ones, but it's like 20 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the like, I think of like that first time that we see it where he's in one of the clubs and he ends up like falling off of the second story balcony, like into the middle of the club. And you see that, and like, I remember that fight sequence specifically because I remember thinking, wow, they actually showed like beginning to end of him falling off of the balcony. Like, there wasn't a camera cut to something else. Like, it actually, you saw the whole thing. And they do this again in the fourth one, but it's not just 5 minutes. It's seriously like 15, 20 minutes long.
So since you brought up the fight from the club in the first movie, did you catch the homage to that in chapter 4?
I think oh, somebody's upset. No, I did not.
They brought the music back.
Did they? I didn't hear
It's
that.
the same track
Same soundtrack.
from that fight scene. I don't remember which scene it was in chapter 4, but I looked at I turned and I looked at Megan. I kind of like tapped her wrist. I was like, "That's the same music from the first one," and she was just like, "Okay."
Yeah, I didn't catch that. Yeah, I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't remember which one it was in this movie, but it was the exact, because the beats are like distinctive enough, and I might have pulled those from the soundtrack to add them to Spotify playlists after I saw the first movie. I will neither confirm nor deny what may or may not have occurred. Was that vague enough? I was going for vague.
Yeah, it's
Sweet.
good.
There's also, and so we Jay has rightfully complained about the length of some of these scenes. There's one near the end of the movie I think is potentially the best action sequence I have seen in a number of years, including every comic book movie. And it's the scene near the end where he's in the abandoned house in Paris.
Mm.
And the camera is going room to room, and it's doing that, but then it pans up and it looks from top down.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like the cinematography and the choreography of that scene blew me away.
The cinematography in this movie, this chapter in particular, is gorgeous. Like the lighting and the atmosphere that they created is absolutely stunning. It was amazing. I loved it. That was one thing that stood out to me from beginning to end, is every scene, every what's the word I'm looking for? Every
What is the word you're looking for?
it's on the tip of my tongue, and it's right there.
Like every place, every scene, every
location.
There it is.
Every location was stunning. Like the way that they filmed it and the lighting and everything was absolutely stunning.
I also think one thing that they did in this movie, so it starts off, so John Wick is on the run. He has been for like a movie and a half now. And he's in, where is it? Is it Kyoto?
Mm-hmm.
It's he's in Japan, and he's staying at the Continental there because
he's in several places.
Yes,
in this movie.
But the manager of the Continental in Kyoto is an old friend. And I pulled up the cast because I would destroy his name. It is Hiroyuki Sanada, a very, very famous. Yeah. I think he's Japanese. He's a very famous martial arts movie actor. Mm-hmm. If you don't recognize the name, you will very likely recognize the face. For those of you who are comic book movie people, he was in The Wolverine.
Yeah.
He was the villain, I guess, which is a mild spoiler if you haven't seen that movie. Of the Wolverine. He's in so many other things. I remember him from The Last Samurai. Did you ever see that, Jay?
Yeah.
That Tom Cruise movie.
Tom Cruise, yeah.
Yeah, I watched that movie way too much as a child. Anyway, moving on. Donnie Yen, another martial arts movie veteran, is
Donnie
in this.
Stole this movie. Like, he was probably my favorite character in the entire movie. Like, when he showed up, I completely forgot about John Wick and just focused on his character.
Yeah.
And then they have got to make an independent movie with him.
So, I mean, we could talk about that a little bit as a more of a reaction. Lance Reddick was in this, which was very bittersweet. Lance Reddick, I know him honestly primarily from this because I didn't watch The Wire. He was Zavala in Destiny. He's a very, very well-known video game character amongst that game's community, and he actually passed away like in the days leading up to the movie's release. So they were able to. They had enough time. They put a in memory of Lance Reddick as the first before credits anything. But it was very not upsetting, but like troubling when his character was just killed like 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And ordinarily that wouldn't have bothered me because it makes, like, from a plot perspective,
Well,
complete sense. It is what is going to happen in that scene.
Yeah.
But
for
watching
sure.
it happen and knowing it's going to happen is just like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this.
Yeah.
Because you can't know that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's not something you can predict. And then also another pretty famous person that was in it too that saw probably the least amount of action was Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård plays the villain of this movie. What is his character? The Marquis of something. Google isn't giving me enough.
He's one of the heads of the table.
Yeah, he is acting as the table. For those of you who might not recognize his name, you also might not recognize his face because he is most notably
He usually wears makeup.
He's Pennywise in the new It movies. He's terrifying in this.
He is terrifying.
Like, that's
he's terrifying as a.
Is that just his vibe? Like, is he just very intense?
I think he just plays horror. Like it's his genre. That's how he does really good at, which is really funny because I've seen interviews with him and have heard interviews of the cast members from like It and Castle Rock, and they'll say like he's one of the nicest, kindest individuals when the camera's not rolling, and then he'll say action, and it's like he just completely changes.
Flips
and
a switch.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like Bill Hader was talking about that on the set of It, and he said the main thing he was asking him was about his eyes, because his eyes go different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, so do they add that in like post-production? And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, your eye thing. And then he just goes, oh, like this, and he just does it.
No.
And of course Bill's just like, oh
yeah, gosh, can you imagine doing something that would unnerve Bill Hader? Like, of all the things that he's seen and been a part of, like, okay.
Yeah, for real. But anyway,
yeah, and then
let's
obviously
say positives about this movie.
John Wick 1 is set in New York, I think. I don't know that.
Basically,
yeah, because that's where the Continental is. I don't remember where 2 was predominantly set, because he was on the run, so a lot of it was in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that the city itself was necessarily a character as much as it was in 1. 3, I'm going to be honest, I have tried to block out because it is bad.
3 was kind of all over the place too.
Okay. But 4, once they get out of Japan in the very beginning of the movie, they are in Paris. To the extent, and I phrased what I said just a second ago very deliberately, there are parts of this movie that Paris is a character. Because he's traveling, he has a driving duel around the Arc de Triomphe. He has to climb like 1,000 stairs 8 times because gravity exists. And he has to make it to the church for this climactic duel, and it's all very over the top at some point. Man, I'm trying to talk about this movie not as a fanboy, and it is not working. One thing go ahead.
I was just going to say the choreography is very good. The setting is very good. The landscape is very good. The lighting is very good. The acting, I mean, it's an action movie. You're not there for the acting.
I'm about to say, we're not here for like best actor performances. We are here because John Wick spends 20 minutes shooting a dragon's breath shotgun at people.
Yeah, which was incredible.
It gave me like very upsetting flashbacks because they had Call of Duty added, and this is gonna be a very precise niche that like 98% of people won't care about. Call of Duty added a shotgun in like 2 updates ago, and it was so broken. It was the only gun anyone was using ever. And it had a Dragon's Breath attachment available. So it was genuinely like watching a movie version of every COD lobby I have played for the past like 6 weeks.
There you go.
So art
It hit
imitating
close to
art.
home.
It did, right here.
And I guess that's kind of my transition from the positive into the negative was this movie did feel very much like a video game, the John Wick video game that they never got to make.
Oh man. That would be
Because
so cool.
because this movie, and this is starting my negatives, this movie was full of quests. I have to go here, and then you have to go here. And oh, you want to do this thing? Well, to do this thing, you have to join this family. But to join this family first, you have to
buy the
go.
DLC.
Yeah. Can you imagine? You get
Yeah,
to the
go.
end, and it's like buy the
Buy the season pass.
the bonus Blu-ray disc to find out the ending of this movie.
Well, see, it's funny you say that because a lot of headlines today are people saying like Paramount says John Wick Chapter 5 might be back on the table. And I'm just like, one, that is a hilarious way to word that headline if you know anything about John Wick.
Right?
Two, this movie ends and it has a climactic duel and it's done exceptionally well. Like it might be the best duel I have seen in a non-Western movie ever. The drama is played well. The pacing is done. It's done at a good speed.
Yep.
And John Wick gets shot, and he's not doing great. And the Marquis had Donnie Yen's character shooting for him, which is, you know, very interesting when I tell you that Donnie Yen's character is blind.
He used the Force.
Dang it, we're crossing the streams. He shoots John Wick, and he's like, "Oh, he's down for the count." It looks like so. Bill Skarsgård's like, "Oh no, you don't get to finish this. I get to finish this." And then John Wick hadn't shot his bullet yet, and he just shoots him in the face. It was a very satisfying ending to a very good villain. But as I said previously, John Wick had been shot twice because they both missed the first time.
Yeah, and in addition to lots of other bullets throughout the entire movie.
He got shot so many times in this movie.
Yeah.
But he goes and he kind of just like meanders his way down the steps, and he sits down and he dies. So it appears. And I say so it appears because it fades to black, and then the screen brings back up on a cemetery where he's buried. So it seems pretty finite. And then it seems hilarious to me that they're like, well, the movie made a lot of money. What if we did another one? No. You have a great ending.
Yeah, you have a good solid ending. You might as well just leave it right there.
Plus, you can do prequels. I would love to not do a prequel with him because then you have to de-age Keanu, and I don't love de-aging technology.
No.
But Akira, the Japanese continental hotel manager's daughter, is alive.
Yeah.
Great spin-off character. They have another show already, I think it's premiering later this year, about the Continental. So I don't know how that's going to work without Lance Reddick, and that makes me sad.
They're going to be younger.
Okay. Well, then I know exactly
how
I read
into that. I read into that because I was very curious to see what that would mean.
Yeah.
Because yeah, those with Lance being passed away, but yeah, they'll be younger characters, so they'll just use different
Yeah.
actors.
So
But
I would love more world building from a separate like the Rogue One of John Wick, where it's like we all know what happens after this, that's fine, but give us the what gets us there. Like, could you imagine? So the whole deal about the mysticism of John Wick in the first movie is he had this incompletable task so he could get out of being the table's hitman, and he did it. Could you imagine if there was a mini series about what he had to do?
oh yeah,
I mean, one, we were already complaining about the start to finish pervasive strong violence.
right.
I now that I'm saying this out loud, I don't know that I want that actually. I don't know that I want the prequel of
That
here's
might be too much.
8 episodes of Keanu Reeves just shooting bullets.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, my other complaint about this movie, and kind of my complaint, it kind of the third one is what began my complaint. So what was so good about the first one, or what I thought was so good about the first one, was that even though it was a fictional story, they very much had it based in a realistic setting,
It was grounded.
and the physics was very realistic for the most part. In a
Oh man.
sense, for example, in the club scene that I was talking about earlier, where he falls off the second, it's a club that has 2 levels, and he's in the middle of it, and he falls off the balcony and falls into the middle of the floor. When he hits the middle of the floor, it damages him. Like, he gets up and you can tell he's like hurting. Like, he's like, ow, ow, ow. He doesn't say that, but you can see it on his face and the way that he's moving, that he's really hurt. And then even after that, he has to, like, basically he has to take a break because he's like, that was rough.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, very much the same kind of thing. It was very much kind of grounded, as John said, kind of somewhat based in that reality. The third one is when we start getting a little bit more, like, it almost becomes a parody of itself, and kind
Oh
of makes
man.
fun of the fact that he's able to take so much damage,
Who
and
is
he falls off the top of the hotel at the very end, and you're like, there is no way you would be able to walk away from that. Like,
yeah.
your spine would be completely shattered. What were you going to say?
Who is this generation's Leslie Nielsen? Because I would love like the Naked Gun, but of John Wick. That would be so entertaining.
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer.
Right? Well, and then I think kind of to the point that you're going to, the definition of body armor in the John Wick world is a bulletproof 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
There are no ballistic plates or anything. It is just, here's your Kevlar jacket. And it works, apparently.
It works, and it's been like that since the beginning. So it's not so much that. It's just, like, he gets hit by several cars, like, almost comedically.
Yeah.
And then he gets shot several times, and then makes it to the top of a giant staircase, and then gets shoved down and rolls down the staircase.
Somewhat like Looney Tunes-esque. Because
Yeah.
he starts at the top of it's like a 200-step staircase. They actually mentioned the specific number in the movie. And I was not paying attention, so I don't know what it is. But
I think it was something like 238 or something.
It was something like that. But they're in tiers. So there's a group of them and then a platform. And then a group of them and then a platform. And when I tell you he rolls all the way to the bottom and he doesn't have the wherewithal to like stop and try to grab the handrail to stop his momentum. He is just like that. If they made a Naked Gun of this movie, that scene would go on for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it would be
or somebody,
outstanding.
you would see somebody get pushed like at the beginning of the movie and they would keep going back to that staircase and they would still be going down the staircase.
Yeah. No, it does take a tremendously long time. But part of that is, you know, you're used to the pacing of how things are in movies where it's, all right, we're going to do the thing. Okay, we did the thing. And he is falling for a while.
But if you can ignore all of that, it's a really good movie.
I love that. If you can ignore everything that sucks about this movie, it's great.
And so I guess for me what it was I did enjoy the movie a lot. But I know that part of it definitely took me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially there at the end, like it sucked that was the ending because then the ending was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, I guess those are my complaints about the movie. But as far as placing it, rating it, I mean, for me, it's 1, 4, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair.
I think is my scale there.
For me, I think it's 1, 4, 1 again, and then a notable gap, and then 2 and 3.
And then also, I was going to say, I forgot, I was going to add on to what I was saying is, I think what John Wick fell victim to with all of that, you know, the getting hit by several cars and getting shot a lot and all that kind of stuff. What John Wick suffered from was they did so well in the first movie and then they did it again in the second movie, and I think people were like, but what's the next big thing?
Yeah.
Like, what's the next big thing that's going to happen? And so they kept having to raise the bar of what John Wick could do. And so that's why you got to the point that you did where he was almost superhuman.
Yeah, I remember I was listening to Free Beer and Hot Wings, the radio show. This would have been in the lead up to when I was going to see the movie, and they actually had a segment on their show of like, who would you say are the most unkillable movie characters? And I couldn't listen to the whole thing because I had to go to work, but he genuinely would be in that conversation.
Yeah.
If you watch the first 3 movies, you're just like, oh my gosh, like what would it take for him to die? And it would take writers who wrote for him to die, because otherwise,
yeah, for them to run out of stuff to write,
pretty much.
It would be like the scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the monster just disappears because the writer has a heart attack.
That's the scene from the Holy Grail where Lancelot is running and he's running and he's running. That's John Wick falling down the stairs.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh man, what an excellent movie that. Oh man, so good.
So I guess we kind of gave our rating as far as John Wick goes.
It is from my fanboy perspective, I went in so scared for this movie and I was blown away. My very biased rating is like a 9. My more objective rating, you are completely accurate in all of your criticisms. They're completely true. So, I mean, that does probably drag it down to like an 8.5 or an 8, but that's still a very good movie.
Yeah. No, I would put it, factoring everything in, I would put it at a 7. But it's a very strong 7. Like
Oh,
it's a 7 that
there's
you're really going to enjoy.
there's also this new character in this movie who can track John Wick across the world, and it is never explained how.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He just shows up everywhere, and it is never explained.
Uh-uh.
We just accept that he is good at what he does, which is kind of what you do when you go see a John Wick movie, I guess.
Yeah. I guess, when he's playing Frogger and then rolling down the stairs, you don't it's just
Yeah.
you just gotta push it out of your mind.
Yeah.
Because
No,
you're
that's
like,
that's
that was ridiculous what I just saw.
yeah. So one of the things that I know was true of at least the first one, I would assume it would be true on subsequent movies, is that Keanu Reeves did his own driving and shooting, which is what allows for so many of the really cool shots that they get in this movie that you don't see in a lot of other action movies, is
Hmm.
because he did his own stuff. Knowing that and hoping that to be true in this movie, the stunts in this movie are like the driving is so impressive because I mean, it's they have a car-based fight. And I know he's driven before, and I know they had the car fight at the end of the first movie, and they've probably had more throughout the series, but this one went longer. And it somehow still worked. So stuff like that is very impressive to me.
Yeah.
I also read the director of this movie is I actually didn't confirm this yet. I need to confirm that. Let me blind myself with IMDb. I read that the director is doing a film adaptation of Ghost of Tsushima,
I saw that.
the
Yes.
PlayStation
I think
game.
it's confirmed.
I desperately want that to be confirmed because that game is one of the most picturesque single player narrative games I have ever seen.
That's saying something.
And knowing he's the one in charge of it, I don't worry about the adaptation of that game.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you want to shift gears real quick, I did something today that I have never done in my entire life. And I did it because I saw gameplay of it.
Did you pre-order
And
Tears of the Kingdom?
I sure
Oh
did.
my gosh. I'm so proud of you.
I sure did. I watched gameplay of it and flipped out. I was like,
Yeah.
this game is going to be amazing.
Because it was what, like
And
10
so
minutes? They did 10
yeah,
minutes of gameplay today.
it wasn't even 10 minutes. It was like because there was a lot of talking at the beginning, so it was like maybe 7 minutes, but still in that 7 minutes, because I was already excited about it, but then I was like, what are they going to do different that's just going to make it that much cooler? And then they showed it and I was like,
Uh-huh.
I want it.
Uh-huh.
So I pre-ordered.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I haven't pre-ordered Jedi Survivor yet, but I think I will probably this weekend. I want the Kenobi cosmetics,
Yeah.
but
One
I
thing
don't care as much about getting the Han and Luke cosmetics because they cost more money, and I just don't want to do that.
I was a little shocked that there's not any like bonus content if you pre-order it. But they did pre-ordering it. They did give you, so like Nintendo has like online currency,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave you like when you pre-order it, they give you like 350 online currency, which can be used, they said, for potentially like future DLC stuff.
Okay.
So that was positive.
Yeah,
So
I do
I
like
guess that
that.
was a positive from it. But
But you also have to be responsible with it, and I know myself, and I wouldn't be. I'd be like, oh wow, look at that really cool cosmetic. Let me use that, and then it's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
you have to buy that DLC now. No.
right. So I'm pumped. But and then also in the video game realm, I also saw I was on my email, and Microsoft sent me an email that said that they can do like a online meeting and like give you a price for your existing Xbox, and you can trade it in for the newer one
Ooh.
and like give you like a certain percentage off or whatever.
So if
And
I have a
so
beat up Xbox 360, they'll give me 1% off a new Xbox.
probably, yeah, I would say that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Dang.
well, I might as well look at that and just see, because like even if they only did like $50, I mean, you can get an Xbox Series S for like 230 now, maybe
Yeah.
250. So anyway,
Yeah. I had exciting video game developments for me. I did recently install one of my favorite FPS campaign games of all time, and I'm very excited to replay it again. Is Titanfall 2,
oh
the most slept
yes,
on campaign in all of video games as far as I'm concerned. And
yes.
I also bought, so Steam did a spring sale. They have
Hmm.
seasonal sales and they're absurd. The deals that you can get on stuff are wild. So I got God of War for 40% off.
Wow.
And I have heard nothing but exceptional things about it. It's not Ragnarok. I don't expect
It's the
Ragnarok will
one that
make
came
it
out
to.
before.
Hmm?
It's the one that came out
Right.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it only made it to PC like this time last year.
Right.
So I'm expecting that I'll get to play Ragnarok sometime in like 2030, give or take. Um,
Yeah. You'll have kids by then.
right. And I'll have to like, no, you can't watch. There's graphic violence everywhere. You can. It's like a John Wick movie in here. Um, but I'm very very excited to replay Titanfall and play God of War.
There you go. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, I guess that just about wraps it up.
Yeah,
Although, I should look to see. I don't even know what we've got coming up next time.
I'll
I can
tell you
pull up.
exactly what I think we have next time, Jay.
Oh, okay.
Due to
That's,
the way the movie release calendar is, I think we have Super Mario.
oh, is that what's next?
I think it comes out next week.
Oh my gosh. I am so excited.
Because I remember seeing a trailer for it recently and being like, "Oh, that's coming out soon."
Yes, you're right. Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
Oh, snap. I'm so excited.
I'm getting progressively more excited, and I don't like it because I don't like being disappointed.
I know. I know. It is scary because I thought the same thing, although I saw an interview with Chris Pratt, and somebody like actually very boldly asked about his accent and how the fans were taking it and like what his thoughts were on it. And he probably had the best response I think I've ever heard anybody say to like criticism. He was like, he said, I totally understand the criticism. He's like, I understand it perfectly. And I get what they're saying. And it is hard when you have an iconic voice like he does, and
Mhm.
then you start hearing somebody else's voice coming from him. It does throw you off. But he said, but I promise you, it's going to be worth it. And what's most exciting is the world building that's going to come from this movie. And then that made me that much more excited. And I was like,
So
yes,
so the after credit scene is going to be Sonic essentially.
it's got to be something. It's
Yeah.
got to be something. I mean, they've already like even in the commercials, they talk about like different universes and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like there's got to be like what I would love to see because I just think it would make a really awesome movie, is to the after credit scene as Samus.
Is Metroid, yeah.
Yes. Like
Because
that would
the Metroid Prime remaster dropped recently on Switch,
just
right?
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be timed out very well. Nintendo would never do something like that. No, they would never schedule game releases based on the movie
Right.
that's coming out. Surely not.
But how
It'd be
I might
incredible. Yeah.
scream. I might scream like a little girl if that actually happens.
Can we take a second to talk about the movies in April that I think I'm going to actually go to the theater and see? So we've
Yeah.
got Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
My wife told me earlier this week she really wants to go see Renfield.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I'm going to tell you one sentence and it should have everyone listening on board immediately. And that sentence is Nicolas Cage is playing Dracula. Should be all you need. That is entertainment gold.
Yeah.
And then the more I see about this dadgum Dungeons and Dragons movie, it looks really good.
I hesitate with that one. Just because the first one is so bad.
See, here's the thing. I think it is going to completely ignore that exists.
Well, I think so too, yeah.
I think it has to, because it's so bad.
I mean, isn't that what they should do for every movie? Because couldn't you just consider it to be a new campaign?
A new game, yeah.
So every movie that they make is just a completely different story.
I would love it if they took the G.I. Joe sequel approach.
It just killed everybody off at the beginning.
You bring all the characters back, but then you have a DM who's just like, no, we can't be bringing back new characters. Or we can't be bringing back old characters. Everybody has to start fresh. So he just has them completely obliterated by some dungeon monster in the first 10 minutes of the movie. The pure entertainment value of that would be off the chart. Because by like the third movie, you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, what are they going to do to him this time? And at some point, the actors I feel like that would be very entertaining.
Yeah.
But also, like, you don't get the full commitment of an entire filming schedule.
You know, one little video game news that I'll drop right here at the end. We can talk about it more next time. So we've talked a little bit about the comic book, The Last Ronin, Ninja Turtles. There is talks that they are going to make a video game based on The Last Ronin, and it's going to be like a AAA built game. And I really, really want that to happen.
Can I make one request? One very specific video game request before that happens.
Yes.
Could I get Rockstar to make an open universe Star Wars game? So, and I say Rockstar. Rockstar is the developer behind GTA, behind Red Dead. LA Noire is a game close to my heart. I do very much appreciate it. But to me, they are the masters of third-person open world.
Mm-hmm.
And if they made, like, you don't have to necessarily be a Mandalorian, but if they made an open world Star Wars bounty hunter game.
Bounty hunter, yeah.
Like if they made Star Wars Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
I'm immediately on board.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, they are going to do, Ubisoft is doing an open world Star Wars game. And immediately I just think of like the latest Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I think of that as like a Star Wars game. And I'm like, that could potentially be very awesome.
Or like all of the Clancy games, because they were also Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and depending on like what class you are, like if you're able to decide like plays, like your game plays different.
Yeah. I mean, if it's an RPG, you have, your builds and everything. So I bet you could have a build of like Beskar armor. and you could dress
So
as a
cool.
Mandalorian. Yeah, that would be. I need that immediately. A Ninja
Yes.
Turtle game would be cool. It has my attention. I would probably. I don't know that I would buy it. I would watch other people play it for sure. But that is definitely something to talk about next time, which will
Next
be
time.
2 weeks from today if you're listening to this on release day. And if you are, we appreciate you. And if you're listening to this after release day, we appreciate you.
Yeah. If you're listening to this 2 years from the release date,
How did
still
our opinions
appreciate
hold
you.
up?
Yeah, right. Have they made that
man.
Star Wars game yet?
Right?
But yeah, so we will be back in 2 weeks with Super Mario Brothers. But until then, nerd out.